Hello everyone and welcome back to Saturday Night Lore, the only series that combines the awesome story of Magic the Gathering with physical cards you can win. Kickstarting our debut of Aether Revolt, Friday Night Lore returns on Saturdays with the first story of this sister set to Kaladesh. With a name like Aether Revolt, you'd expect this bombastic conclusion of the block to start with a bang, but we find ourselves hurried down dark streets, created not by angry citizens revolting against a tyrannical consulate who just confiscated their great inventions, but rather silence. The still, quiet night enforced by a consulate-issued curfew. Yet, despite this mandate, life lingers out defiantly, but it's a life that's about to run out. A lonely Aetherborn stumbles through the empty city that was once filled with so much life and excitement. This individual should know, they once were the king of lively after-dark activities. It's Yahenni, a successful socialite and philanthropist. They also happen to have only a few minutes left to live. The Aetherborn are a curious race, born as a byproduct from ether refinement, pure energy given shape and life. Because of their volatile nature, Aetherborn tend to live short existences, their hard dermis structures breaking free and setting loose their very being as they age. Yahenni is a special case because they're able to sense out the feelings of others around them while also being acute to how much time is left in its own life. With the curfew in effect, Yahenni has but merely minutes to live. The death of an Aetherborn is supposed to be celebrated, the closing of a life well lived in their culture. This milestone is marked by a penultimate party, a birthright given to each Aetherborn that promises them a huge party on the eve of their demise. To not be surrounded by loved ones and people celebrating the beauty of life as yours comes to an end is one of the worst things that can ever happen to an Aetherborn. Now, Yahenni has been denied this right by order of the Consulate and this curfew. He drags his deteriorating body through the streets looking for someone, anyone, to be with as they leave this world. Fear overcomes it. They may just die alone and forgotten. Before the Consulate imposed this ridiculous law, Yahenni had planned one of the biggest penultimate bashes Kaladesh would ever know. After all, they are insanely wealthy. But despite that, Yahenni was also one of the most genuine and kind Aetherborn one could know. If given the chance, most of Kaladesh would have shown up to pay tribute to this great figure. Even the Gatewatch and the Renegades owe Yahenni their gratitude. After all, they were instrumental in locating the captured Pia Nalaar, putting their own freedom and even life on the line for the strangers Chandra and Nissa. But now, they walk down an empty street, with the only other living thing to comfort them being a starving gremlin, waiting to feast on the ether they'll leave with their death. A heartbeat echoes through the still, lonely night, a life Yahenni could actually reach out to. It's a renegade sympathizer, vandalizing the side of a consulate museum with the sigil that's become synonymous with the rebel group. Upon further inspection, Yahenni discovers that this man is in fact his caterer, the greatest cook and party provider Kaladesh has to offer. He was even supposed to cater the penultimate. Yahenni stumbles over to the startled man, greeting him with the charm so classic and endearing to this Aetherborn. Yahenni has few regrets in life, but one was definitely canceling on his caterer for this evening's festivities. Yahenni despises cancellations. The man is amazed at the apology, but requires none. He holds the fading Aetherborn in his arms, and Yahenni finally feels okay to let go. But before that great release, whistles and shouts can be heard coming their way. The Consulate had sniffed them out, and vandalism was currently a serious offense. The man tried to run, but an officer threw an electrical device which shocked him unconscious, walking over and completely ignoring the withering Yahenni. Pulse after pulse of energy coursed through the man's body. Yahenni could sense that any more, and he'd be killed. Despite their current state, Yahenni challenged the officer brute. The officer recognized this Aetherborn. It was wanted for questioning in regards to the criminals Chandra and Pia Nalaar. He offered an ultimatum: tell him where to find the scum or this man, his cater, will die. The choice to betray people who truly cared and who he cared for in return was too much for Yahenni. And suddenly, he felt a pull coming from the officer himself. It was a sense Yahenni had felt once before, an energy being drawn in like a vacuum. In anger and desperation, the Aetherborn tugged on this feeling, and with it came the life essence of the consulate officer. This precious energy entered Yahenni, an internal check confirmed. They now had 12 days to live, not merely minutes. It wasn't a pleasurable experience, mind you. When the life was taken, Yahenni felt all his pain, suffering, and loneliness balled up in one powerful moment. It was something they didn't plan on doing again, but regardless, they were now safe to leave. Yahenni goes through an internal struggle. They just took a life. The guilt was so strong. Yahenni needed something to justify this murder, even if it was only for himself. The Renegades were fighting a noble fight, and the people who make up this group are some very close friends of his. Yahenni would be proud to serve by them for its remaining 12 days. Maybe in that time, they'll make right the life they stole. Only problem was the Renegades and their leader Pia were in hiding. Yahenni needed to contact the one Aetherborn who knew more of the Kaladesh underbelly than he did, the crime lord Gonti. Using their esteem and celebrity, Yahenni entered the crime lord's hideout without much fuss and was granted an audience with Gonti. Gonti was old, like Yahenni, falling apart at the seams, but Gonti realized that Yahenni was in much better condition than they would have thought. It was easy to tell. Yahenni was an essence drainer, rare among their kind to be sure, but not unheard of, while Gonti was prolonging its life with an artificial and expensive ether heart. A deal between these two Aetherborn is struck. Gonti will reveal the Renegade's hiding place so that Yahenni can join the good fight, provided that they pressure the rebels into attacking the Consulate. This whole curfew business has really did a number on Gonti's bottom line. Something needs to happen now so that the operation can continue. Yahenni doesn't feel right, but needs to locate these friends. The agreement is made. The next day, Yahenni travels to a series of grand statues built in remembrance of the greatest inventors throughout all the history of Kaladesh. It was within one of these monuments that the renegade leader has been hiding. Yahenni senses the presence of 5 individuals and makes his way up the ladder. Yahenni can hear them discussing their approach before the Aetherborn breaks the tension in his own flamboyant way. Nissa and Chandra recognize the voice and gladly welcome a friendly face. Yahenni is greeted by his 2 old acquaintances and 3 new, unfamiliar people. Chandra and Nissa introduce them as Jace, Gideon, and Liliana, while 2 others, Pia and Ajani, were out collecting rations. While Yahenni was all about small talk and pleasantries, this wasn't the time for that. Gonti had tipped off the police, and they would be arriving soon. They needed to escape to a more secure location. Gonti always expects a return on its investment. Yahenni had to pressure the Gatewatch in attacking the Consulate, but rather than playing its part, Yahenni simply warned of the Consulate's arrival. Taking the threat to heart, they began to make their way down the ladder. Yahenni could sense the hum of sirens blaring, a vehicle speeding their way with 2 officers. Gonti had already spilled the beans. Judging by the speed and direction, it appeared the cruiser was on a crash course for the statue, no doubt hoping to ram it and cause them all to fall to their deaths. At this point, Yahenni's instinct took over. With no reasoning behind it, the Aetherborn leaps from the ladder with conviction to some unknown end. Yahenni can't even explain these actions. The Aetherborn lands on top of the roof of the approaching vehicle and begins to drain the life of the officers inside. It flips wildly off course and crashes into another monument, sparing the lives of their renegade friends. Again, the feeling of essence draining was one of mixed elation and pain. 2 more lives lost in this horrid conflict. The only one who seems to understand the pain of Yahenni is the kind elf Nissa Ravain, the one with deep, endless eyes. There's pain in her life too, regret and suffering, which allows her to relate with this guilt. The others of this company pay the loss of life no mind. Collectively, they've seen worse than anything Yahenni could ever imagine. These were proud people, people fighting for a just cause, people Yahenni could stand by with honor. As things settle, Yahenni offers to take them all to his estate, a place with enough security to effectively hide them all. If Yahenni was going to steal life, then it needs to be put to good use. Helping the Renegades, helping Kaladesh, helping his friends. This was Yahenni's new calling. And there you go guys, our first story into Aether Revolt from the perspective of a character I really enjoy. Now, the reason I love Yahenni is all due to the writing for this character. If you haven't already, I really suggest you guys reading the 2 articles this figure's featured in. I have them linked below. Believe me, you'll fall in love. It also appears that Yahenni will be getting a card in Aether Revolt, along with some art that's already available in some leaked cards. We don't know what their card's gonna do, but I guess it'll probably be Dimir colors with lifelink and some other effect. But that's a good question. What do you see Yahenni's card being like? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, to kick off Aether Revolt on Saturday Night Lore, you can now enter for your chance to win a copy of Gonti, Lord of Luxury. All you had to do is be a subscriber to the channel and leave a comment on this video. I'll select one at random and announce them at the end of next week's Saturday Night Lore. And that about wraps up this video. Remember, if you enjoyed the content and want to see more, like, sub, and share it with friends. You can also support me on Patreon, which you can find linked in the description below. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.